Now this is Podgazing.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Podgazer podcast. I'm your host, Star Wars Gazer, and today we are joined by legendary actor Mr. Tait Fletcher. How are you today, sir?
Doing great, man. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being on here. I know you're a pretty busy guy, so I appreciate you taking the time to be on.
It's a pleasure.
First things first, I like to ask a couple just kind of breakaway questions here. What got you started into acting? I know obviously we all know you a lot from, I know you from The Equalizer and some others as well, but as Paz Vizsla and the Mandalorian show and stuff. But like, what got you down that path, and what brought on your love of Star Wars?
Oh, way different questions. When I was a little kid is when I first saw Star Wars, the original in theaters, and I think that is that changed everything. It changed everything in filmmaking. It changed everything it created a genre of which still to date there's not like a legacy like that. That's like it captured several generations, and it has like a living mythology to it. And there's not other programs or stories that are out there that are like that are full of principles and tough decisions and looks internally, and then in a universal context. And so all those things really were pretty inspiring to me. And then the first time that you get to see the Millennium Falcon go into hyperdrive is like and to think that all that was done practically also was like and it holds up today. It's not cheesy today by any means. It still holds up. What a fantastic representation of what was needed, and what you could almost look at like everything that goes on now with AI and with CG and all that as like I don't know, it's extra pomp that's not necessary in some way. And I think that to have the craftsmen that are available with the work is tremendous, man. And so anyway, that was the first thing that really inspired me. I was a little kid and I got to see a ship go into hyperspace. I mean, it was like insane.
That's awesome.
What got me into acting was later in life I was at work, and I got called up, and Master P and a bunch of his guys came in from No Limit Records, and they were doing a offshoot of that called No Limit Films, and they were doing a film out here at the just south of town in Santa Fe. And I got a role in that film, and then I just kind of didn't look at it ever again since then, because it just didn't seem like a operable option for my job. And I started competing as a fighter about that time, and so I didn't want to break focus on what I was out for, and it just seemed unrealistic. The guy that ran that show, he was like, "Dude, calm, you move great, you got a great look. Come out and you can stay at my place. I got a spare house in Woodland Hills." And I was like, that just seems so unrealistic. And I thought, I'm doing this thing right now where I'm competing all over the country, and that's kind of where I wanted to be. And so I did that. And then a crazy part about that is like 10 years later, after a fight career ebbs and flows, I'm on Equalizer, and he's the same guy running the Equalizer. He has no idea that he's the guy that was my first start in the film business also. But
wow.
Yeah.
What a small world, like a small, kind of coming back to the beginning, so to speak, like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. It's like there's a lot of special people that, it's the same way with fighting. Is people are like, how'd you get involved in that or whatever? It's just, I guess common interest, but it's like people come into your life when you start to go, maybe this is the direction I go in. There's a great book Paulo Coelho wrote called The Alchemist, and there's a great line in there that says, when a man is seeking and striving towards his destiny, the whole universe conspires to help him meet that goal. And I think that's cool. Really the thing, is like choosing that and going towards it, and not knowing how you're going to get there. That doesn't really matter. what matters is that you're involved in heading towards that thing. And then, and then you're pulled, there's tangents that happen. But yeah, that's kind of how it all began for me.
That's really cool. That's cool. So obviously, like you said, you were a fighter for quite a while. And I think when you and I talked at Rebel Scum Con last year, you and I had that conversation a little bit, that you had started at fighting and stuff. As you started getting into acting and everything, like, what is the experience like when they come to you for Star Wars? I know Emily had mentioned they didn't tell her it was Star Wars. They just said, "Hey, we have this part," and kind of left it pretty ambiguous. Was it kind of the same for you, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just went into another audition. I get called on a lot of auditions. And this was just another one that I went into, and then I didn't find out until, I don't know, it was a few days later that they said, Favreau liked your audition. And I go, wow, Jon Favreau. So I was like, what is this? And then they said, he likes you for this other part, though. Because I'd read it originally for Alpha Trawler, for like the boss in the bar in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And then I thought, well, I guess I lost that part. And they said, well, just go out to Legacy Effects and go get fitted for this costume. And so I go out, and they don't know what it is. It was originally titled something like Heavy Bounty Hunter or something like that, or Heavy Infantry Bounty Hunter was what the name on all my bags were. But they knew it was a story about bounty hunters that was kind of an offshoot of Boba Fett, but nobody really had a lot of information about it. And so we just started doing all the measurements of everything and building the suit around me over the next several months. And then I didn't really realize the enormity of it, I guess, until I was on set. I mean, all of it unfolds. There's these little miracles that all unfold along the way. And you're like, wow, this is striking.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's that like for you? Because you talked about even being as a kid, like being captivated by Star Wars, seeing, hyperspace and all this stuff. And then now, like, you begin to, like, you realize, like, I'm on the set of a Star Wars deal here. Like, was that just kind of it had to be wild for you, I'd imagine.
For sure. The first day I walked in, I'm on, I go to my dressing room, and then, the doors are kind of close to each other, and it's Carl Weathers. And I was like, holy shit, Apollo Creed's here. Like, and so that, there's like I said, there's all these little things that start to build up. And then when I walked out, Alpha Trawler was a great character play. Like, Filoni's there, Favreau's there. There's a linguist from George Lucas's camp there that is talking me through all the Huttese, and we'd work together on Zoom a lot to get the accent and the guttural intonations and all that together. And that was rad, man. That was really great. And seeing cool. The door, the aperture door, the bar, and it was the first time I'd been on the volume.
Okay.
And the volume is the volumetric screens that are like TV screens that are walls and ceilings, though you're in a warehouse of being inside a video game, basically.
Wow.
Watching the walkway that was practical, walk out of the bar, and then watching them sync up the walkway to go out onto the ice and the ships out beyond. And I was like,
wow,
it was great. It's crazy, So that was my first experience with that too. And I was like, God, this is, because there was stuff, I mean, regardless of it being Star Wars, I mean, that's stuff that had never happened before. I believe Star Wars was the first thing to use the volume.
Okay.
And I don't even know that on Our Flag Means Death was a show that I did, and they had like a quarter volume in it. And but other than that, I hadn't seen it before. And all the guys that I know that work all the time on all the Fast and Furious and all the Marvel shows, none of them had ever seen it before. And even years later, it became It's a real special thing. So that was cool. And then when I was playing pause, I get geared up and kitted up and go out. And they're like, well, we got to wait first. We got to see all the Disney execs. So all the Disney execs are there to see what this new great toy is going to be.
Wow.
So then I go out and I do all the photo shoots and all the poses for the toys. And but the real most striking moment was, me and Brendan and Lateef were down in the where the forge was.
Yeah.
In that opening scene, and we're just going over, because we got some fight beats to go over and stuff like that. And so we're just kind of, you go over all those fight scenes in an open space somewhere. because you don't know how you're going to be compromised inside the actual set. So then we go down there and we walk it through in the set to see where we can move and what it looks like and all that. And then Emily comes walking up, and she's kitted up, helmet, the whole deal, the fur, the
Yeah.
gold, and I was just like, this is fucking beautiful. And the atmosphere in there, how all our costumes interacted with the walls and the smoke and it was really something. And I was like, God, this is incredible. And it's just one of those things where you go, I can't wait to see what this looks like. Because when you're inside it, you have no idea what a product will look like that gets consumed by the public.
That's fair.
It's a different thing, you know. I was in Sicario and I was like, I don't know if this is going to be any good. And then I was like, oh my God, that's a fantastic film, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard to know when you're just in chunks of it. And especially Star Wars is so big.
Right.
That, you know, there's 3 different sets that are shooting at the same time often.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's characters that I didn't know that were there until I saw them at Comic-Cons later, you know. And I was like,
That's wild.
You're in this too, like crazy. And so, yeah.
That's wild. So like, last week I got to talk to Brendan about like his experience and stuff. And like, he kind of mentioned the same thing you did when you said, you're door to door dressing and you look over and you're like, holy crap, it's Apollo Creed, and he's like, holy crap, it's Emily Swallow, and holy crap, it's Tait Fletcher, and holy crap, it's Kate Sackhoff. Like, do you kind of have the same experience with those folks as well? You get, like he said, like it was just a real good family. Kind of.
Yeah, it was cool. I'd known Katie for about 15 years, I guess. I'd known her since Longmire days.
Okay. Yeah.
So we've been friends a long time, and I was surprised to see her there. I mean, I didn't have any idea until I saw her on set. I was like, oh, dope. And Bryce I'd known for a while, and she was an amazing director, amazing guidance. The thing I say about Brendan is, the real backbone of like. He is the morale of that show. Like he really rallies, man. He's a special dude. That's and cool. I love him as Mando. He really does a great job. And Lateef does all that. I mean, he moves incredibly. So they really melded that together, those two, as a great character.
That's cool. Yeah, to me, Brendan's Mando, like all the movements, everything there, that's Brendan for sure. That's wild. So I do want to talk about, obviously, at the end of the time we saw Paz, he had that epic, like, I'm sacrificing myself for y'all. What was that pretty emotional for you as you went into that, or did you not know until you were already doing it, kind of a thing?
No, I knew the first day. John pulled me aside. He goes, "All right, so this is how this is going to go," and but there was so much. Meat in between that day and that final week of filming that I just never really thought about it again. And that's kind of the thing, every scene is like unto itself, and you've got to let that unfold in real time and be present for it. So there's not really a future thought about those things, for me anyway, as an actor. But when we did that, it was intense, man. The whole week building up to it was intense, inside with everybody behind the doors before they cut the hole in the wall in the back. All of that stuff was really cool. And then just to see like what the beats were going to be as I come out and then disable the door and go forward.
Yeah.
Tom O'Connell was a guy that helped a lot. And without, Tom there, it would have been a hell of a fucking thing to carry because it was a super physical endeavor. It was, and you're weighted, and you're fogged up and you're counting steps because you're not sure where everybody is. And then to have the impact of other people, it's like that, as a performer, one of the things is you got to keep people safe. And so all of that, and to have it all look like Rex and some of it's Rex,
Yeah.
It was pretty intense. And then one of my heroes, this guy from Westside Barbell, one of the greatest strength coaches of all time. I was sitting while Tom was filming some stuff, and I look, and then a friend of mine texted me that he passed, and I was weeping on set. And then it's time to put the helmet on. Let's go to work. And so that in my own way, it's kind of an homage to him that day.
Wow. It's kind of interesting how like the universe works in that way, right? Like, obviously, sad for you, obviously losing that mentor of yours, but at the same time, like, to help you with that scene. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird how things work out sometimes like that.
Yep.
What is one of your like favorite scenes? Do you have a favorite scene that you did in there, or do you just kind of just enjoyed the?
I love the speech inside the cave.
Okay.
When I have the hammer.
Yeah.
We're rallying everybody together. That was dope. Standing ovations from all the cast and crew with each presentation. It was really fucking cool. And then that final scene was incredible, you know? Yeah. You know, the other part is just like opening it all up. That first scene with Emily, the intensity of that, of like, you know, we're all creating characters that don't exist.
Yeah.
And so the intensity of that, of like who we're all becoming in that moment, was really striking too, very impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you guys are creating these characters from nothing, right? Because there literally is no material about who these characters are. Like, that's kind of up to you guys.
And it was, I mean, it's both great and it's all, you know, all I knew is I really loved Chewie, right? As a kid, like, he's my guy. And I thought, this is important, Tait, and you better carry this well.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, but then also for me, I get to create that. I get to create the strength and the movement and all that at Paz. Whereas, like, you know, the guy that doubled me for a few of those scenes, Tom, he also doubled for Darth Vader.
Oh, wow.
And so you got to mimic what has been, which is an iconic character, and don't fuck it up.
Right.
You know? So that's almost a harder job in that way, you know.
Yeah, people will know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you mentioned Chewie is your favorite character.
Yeah.
What makes him your favorite character?
Oh man, just the loyalty and the strength, and I mean the honor of, I think, his honor.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a great character.
And he took life loosely. You know, he doesn't. He's a guy that's just in the moment. You know.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that.
Goes with the flow. I like that a lot.
As a little kid, you know, I probably thought, wouldn't it be great to have a pal like Chewie that was this great big son bitch that would just push anybody out of the way that was giving you trouble?
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Like, man, bring a Chewie to school, you know, like
the first thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody would bother you after that when he's ripping people's arms off their sockets. What is your favorite Star Wars movie as a whole?
You know, I think the very first one is so good to bring us into that universe. But I really like what they did with Andor. I thought that dovetailed with that, you know, a show that's made in, you know, 2022 or whenever that was made.
Yeah.
And that dovetails with 1977 perfectly is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And I like the darkness, the gritty. There's a sense of like Sin City about it almost in some parts.
Okay.
It was, yeah, I like that a lot.
That's cool. Yeah. I asked Brendan the same thing last week, and one of the things he mentioned was that he really loves A New Hope as well, because he's like, you know, talking about sports players, you know, you're always chasing the first one, what that feels like, you know, and you're always chasing after that.
It's easy for us to say that because we're old.
Yeah.
Me and Brendan, we're a day apart, our birthdays.
Oh, shoot. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Dang.
But, you know, if you ask somebody that is born in 1990 or whatever like that, what their favorite Star Wars, it's going to be different because there's more options.
Right. That's true.
That struck us. We call it Star Wars. You call it A New Hope.
Right.
You know, and that's just,
it's true.
That's just an age thing.
Yeah.
Because for my generation, that's Star Wars. And then everything else had to live up to that.
Yeah. No, that's true. That I hadn't thought of that, because I'm a 94 model. Right. And my favorite is actually The Empire Strikes Back.
Pretty great too.
Love that one. But the one that holds the most nostalgia for me is actually The Phantom Menace, because that was the first movie period I'd ever seen in theaters.
Right. And that I think is a lot of people's experience as fans, There's that whole generation that it's like that's their first Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Um, have you are you excited for the Mandalorian Grogu movie?
I am more so now that I've had some people talk to me that have been in it.
Okay.
Because at first I thought it's Grogu and Mando flying around doing adventures here and there, but then I start to hear about some of the character development of other characters that are in it. It sounds really dope. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Okay. I think there's a lot of Star Wars fans who are kind of, including myself included, like, it looks fun, it looks entertaining, and we're excited to have a Star Wars movie back in theaters again. Because I mean, like, it's great to have these streaming episodes, but at the same time, Star Wars was built in the theater. Like, you go to the theater to watch these movies, and so there's also a little bit of like, oh man, I hope this is good.
Of course. I mean, yeah, for sure. Who knows where this whole franchise is going? And now there's been a lot of shifts on the highest levels of Disney and Lucasfilms and all that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
but I'm excited to see whatever. I mean, the more control Dave and John have of creation and where this goes, I really love watching their stuff. I mean, they're brilliant.
100%. Yeah. And then you have this new mall show coming out, and you have Dave and Sam Witwer working together. Like, it's got to be a good show. I think they're two of the most nerdy Star Wars people there are.
Yeah, I mean, Dave's attention to quality and story is incredible. So yeah, I'm super excited.
What was it like working with Dave and John on set?
It's great. I worked on a film that John directed, The Avengers. And, and the one thing I didn't interact with John a whole lot, but the one thing that was palpable was everybody's attitude, and that really comes from the top down. And John just demands that everybody's polite, calm, and cool, and professional. And if you're not, thanks a lot. Have a great day. We'll call you if we need you. And it really, it's a great work environment in that way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice when you have a place of work where like you enjoy. There's no tensity. There's no, in the sense of like, yeah, that's cool that he sets that bar for you.
Yeah.
Did you have, I mean, I know, like you said, you're creating this character from scratch, but did you have any like conversations with John or Dave, like Dave going like, okay, I think maybe he'd do this, or XYZ? Do you have any of those conversations?
They kind of really left it to me in that way. John was really cool about that. Every morning he'd be with us and he'd kind of talk us through the scenes that we're shooting. And there was at one point where I think Carl was going, well, where do you want this to go, and how do you want this to be, and because it was a big scene and a lot of movement, a lot of blocking needed to be done, a lot of dialogue, and so for this thing that's very precise, that of course the people that are writing it and they have a way that they want it to get presented. And so there's all that has to go into it, the tight guardrails of what it is. And then John said the most amazing thing. He said, well, you guys are going to figure that out when you walk through it a few times. And that's where it'll come to life. And so this thing about like, there's a line, something about be an expert so that you can go ahead and get loose with it. And the idea about being so excellent at something that you can throw away everything and let it all come and flourish as new. And that's where the miracle happens, is inside of the energy of the different characters and the different actors that are bringing this to light. And John had just been in enough shows where he trusted that process. You got to trust that process of unfolding. You can't hold it too tightly or it comes out funny. If I'm trying to do your representation of what my character is, well, that's already too many degrees away from my soul's inception and manifestation of what that character might be. And so I really, I really appreciated his style of directing and kind of the way he held the set.
So one of the things I like to talk about with folks, and I talked about it last week as well, is I like to highlight the people behind the scenes, because there's these movies and stuff wouldn't be getting made or happen without those folks. You know, I know Brendan talked last week about Latif. He does a phenomenal job with all the stunts and everything. Is there anybody that you would maybe like to shout out, you know, behind the scenes that was just like, then this guy was it?
Well, Latif is in front of the camera.
Right.
And I just spoke at the legislature here about film in New Mexico. And there's a film fund that then one of the governors got mad at the previous governor, so they shut everything down. But what that did was it negated people's ability to work. And so if you're an electrician, if you're a carpenter, those are different trades in our world than they are in the. You can't go and wire a building if you're an excellent master electrician on a set, but you can make a wet parking lot look like daylight. I mean, they've got this incredible skill set that is perfectly fit for our remote locations, for adverse weather, for all of that. And so all these different trades that are there, if you wanted to continue working the film business, they all had to move. And so they moved to Louisiana or Atlanta or wherever there was film going again.
Wow.
And for me, I can travel. I'm in front of the camera. I have, which is, you know, a blessing. That, I mean, for sure it affects me too, but not to that degree. And so all those people that are behind the scenes, I mean, for shout outs, I mean, all the people at Legacy Effects, Dawn and Tamara in particular, that were with me every day, putting my costume on, taking it off, listening to me go, hey, you know, do you think maybe I could go to the bathroom, and them helping me at a split second, and then double timing to get me back on set in time. They're incredible. And Tamara and Dawn are there all the time. They play other characters also. They're pretty phenomenal. And Legacy Effects was beyond compare. But everybody that's there, what made the Star Wars set so unique and so special is that everybody's a fan. There's not one person that's not on the side of Star Wars in that show. And so you're in a lot of other shows and you can kind of like, people just mail it in or it's another job from or whatever, but they're watching Star Wars get created.
Yeah.
And I think it was incredible for everybody in that way. And everybody really brought it. You know, one of the things about being on Star Wars on the Mandalorian set was that there was not a person there that's not excellent. Right. Except for the COVID police, which were really weird, but very unpopular to talk about. Yeah, it was like that, where everybody's in this storyline, everybody's following it, and it's important to everybody because everybody knows what we're holding there. You know, this legacy of greatness that has been this architecture of mythology that has shaped people's philosophies.
Yeah.
I mean, what movies are doing that? I mean, you know,
Right.
So yeah.
There's few movies like that. Like, I think the only other movie trilogy, in my opinion, that has that kind of effect would be Lord of the Rings, in my opinion.
That's right. Exactly right.
Those Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are like the only two that have that effect on people.
Yeah.
Which is just wild. Like you said, since 1977, nothing else has been created like this world. That's wild. Okay, I'm going to ask you, because you said it was unpopular. Don't mind if you don't want to answer it, that's fine.
I'm unpopular anyway.
All right, cool. I like it. I forgot. It didn't dawn on me until you said that you guys were actually working on this during COVID. Mm-hmm. So what was that experience like on top of everything else that you're trying to do?
I mean, it was like it was, hang on. I got to get my boy for a second.
You're good.
Come on. He's going nuts. He hears us talking. He's like, I want to be a part of that.
Right. Let me be in on the convo, man.
It was difficult. I mean, and I think it was difficult for everybody because go lay down, buddy. Cut. Hey, cut. Because everybody's got mixed messages, you know. I mean, we have all these strictures, and then you have people that were like the COVID police that are like some barista that wanted to be in the film business, so now he's going to come and say, "Hey, pull your mask over your nose." We're in helmets, right? We're covered. And by the time you're done, you're breathless to some degree. You're in. They put up 8 or 10 foot plastic screens where you could live in the screen, and you could go and have water there or rest or whatever. And you're in a warehouse that's 100,000 square feet. You're in this huge spot, and there's a kid. He comes walking up, and I'm alone in my little plastic bubble, and he's like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" I go, "Sure." And I already know what's about to transpire. He's like, "Could you pull your mask up a little bit?" I go, "You're literally the only one here, and there was nobody within 100 yards of me before you walked up." I said, "So that's real?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Okay, cool, thanks." And then I go, "Hey, you got a minute?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." I said, "So I just want to ask, did you just break our 6-foot barrier that we're supposed to be to tell me that?" And so I'm that guy. I start doing that. And then he goes to leave, and I go, "I'm just fucking with you." And I go, hey, would you come back for a second? Aren't you supposed to have goggles on if you're talking to a principal? Because at that point, they were in the make-believe where your eyes are going to leak COVID into people.
Right.
Oh, so the scamdemic really had everybody all twisted up. And then there's different rules for everybody. And so for me, I was pretty sure I was vocal enough that I was like, I'm not going to get asked anywhere ever again. Because I have a hard time doing pageantry for pretend.
100%.
400-pound people that are the minister of health that's telling me about health and how I should rebreathe my carbon dioxide. Like, it's insane. And so that was my feeling about it. If that clears it up for anybody about where I stood on that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, it got to a point too where, like,
and it was a big money grab, is what it was.
100%.
Producers would make the testing labs, and I know people that made millions of dollars selling masks through that time. It's like it's a huge money grab, and then you have a free vaccine that the American taxpayer has paid for. God knows what that number is never given to us about what they pay Pfizer, Moderna, etc. So anyway, there's all that goes on, but it's just business as usual in America.
Right.
Make people scared and then profit on it.
100%. Yep.
So that's a little offshoot of what this is as far as a podcast about Star Wars. But a lot of it is like, you're in there working for Disney, Lucasfilms. You're working for the Rebellion and the Empire all at the same time.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of funny. I had during COVID, I think I had it. I'm pretty sure I had it before like the whole thing blew up. Before it
was cool.
Before it was cool. Yeah. I wasn't part of the cool club because it was cool before it was cool. And I worked at a place where I was traveling to Kansas City with a guy. It was like a 3.5 hour drive and back. And then that following weekend, like 3 days later, he went down with COVID. I never got COVID through the entire COVID thing. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm pretty sure I already had it. Like, it's going to be like any other sickness, like it's you're going to get it. You're going to recover. And then your body's going to start building immunities to this stuff, like the flu, like the cold, like, but I know one of the things for you, and I think we also talked about this at Earl Scum Con, obviously you're into fitness and stuff. So I recently, about 2 or 3 months ago, started getting to the gym every morning. I've just been on the treadmill, on the bike, just trying to bike, watching what I'm eating. I've lost like 15 pounds in the last like 2 or 3 months. What is some advice, some fitness advice you might have for some folks out there? Because I know there's some other folks that I know that are currently trying to do the same thing.
It's such a holistic talk. It's a mental health talk. It's a discipline and consistency talk. It's a talk about responsibility and accountability to oneself. All these things that we'd rather not. We'd rather pay for a pill and take that and have a result.
Yeah.
And there's not pills that are good for you that are like that. And so the first thing that I did in my experience, well, you know, I started competing as an athlete, and so I'd had to make weight, and I had no idea how to control what I ate before that. I just never thought about it. And so the first thing that I did that was, I think, super important, and it's super easy for everybody, is I just had some non-negotiables. And some of those non-negotiables look like I'm not going to eat any sugar, and I'm not going to eat any white flour. And a friend of mine said, if you just cut out the white substances from your life in that way, you're going to have a result. And that became like, I started to get fastidious. Like, I wouldn't eat ketchup because there's a lot of sugar in ketchup. I started to look at where there was hidden sugar and high fructose corn syrup and all these things like mayonnaise, like it's everywhere. And so then I start to shop differently. I start to really read labels. I start to really look at, like, am I nourishing my body or not? And inside of that, I had no idea what a caustic drug sugar was emotionally, and the roller coaster ride that it would put you on. And so I started to do that with 100% consistency, and I started to see and feel results. I was more wakeful, was more present. And so that was super helpful to me. And then, you know, the conversation just grows from there. You know, a lot of guys that they're like, oh, I'd like to get, you know, fit or whatever, and whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
And they go, I've just got to get to the gym. I've got, and you know, to walk in the door of a gym is fucking hard. I don't know, you know, people that never think about that, maybe they don't think it's hard, but like, to walk in someplace new where I'm going to bear myself in this way where I go, I'm unhappy. First, it's an admission. I'm kind of unhappy with myself.
Yeah.
Right. When I first ever walked into a gym, hey, sugar, no. And so just in that way, you know, it became a thing where I would just tell people, why don't you do 50 push-ups a day? So just break them into 5 different sets. Can you do that every day for a week? And most people can't. And so my thing is it's not about the gym. It's about consistency and discipline. Do I have it? You know, am I able to go ahead and be a part of that? And if you can't be a part of your own life where you're owning yourself in that way, you're going to have difficulty everywhere. And that's just going to come up. But when you do start doing those certain things that are non-negotiables, you'll notice how having standards will eke its way into the rest of your life. And people that don't have standards, that are your best friends, will say, hey, just have a couple. You can have 1 donut. Why don't you just drink 2 beers? Bah, 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 bah. I mean, I've seen low bottom alcoholics where their best friends are like, you got to stop drinking that. And then after they stop drinking for a month or 2, they go, well, you can just have 1. Why don't we just have 1?
Yeah.
We low key kill each other.
Yeah.
Because we don't like the reflection that somebody else has a standard that we don't. And so one thing I'll say too, if you really want to change your life, you're going to have to be available to, your friends are going to get altered, because people without standards will not want to be around you, nor you them. And so once one of you will sink to the other's level, the other person will rarely rise to your level. And so that becomes a different thing too, when you start to set disciplines and parameters for yourself in your life. But I've never seen anybody succeed that doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And that's why most people that succeed have a smaller pool of friends, but that pool, if you look at them, they're all kind of high drivers in the same way. Because at a certain point, when you start taking responsibility for your life, you don't want to be around anybody that doesn't take responsibility for their life, because it's uncomfortable and it's dangerous. It's not safe. They're not trustworthy people.
Yeah.
So inside of that changes. And so when I say it's a big deal, it's holistic. It's like there's a lot of emotional endeavors that go on here, and there's a lot of things at stake that you might not think about, you know,
100%.
because it becomes a lifestyle change. It becomes do I want to change my life, or do I want to lose 5 pounds?
Right.
Well, I like longevity and to have effectiveness and purpose in my life. Well, that's a different conversation than losing 5 pounds.
Right. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I ended up, I've been trying to be like that consistency thing. You know, my brother-in-law, it's been really cool. He kind of started about the same weight I was. And about 2 years ago or so, he started changing up his what he eats. He goes to the gym every morning, right? And like he does these things and he's consistent about it and he's disciplined with it.
Yeah.
And like to see where he went from being a big guy to being like he's got muscle, like he looks good, and so like he started kind of getting me on that track. And now like for me, the biggest thing for me has been trying to make sure I watch what I eat, because that's always been a struggle of mine. And not just watching what I'm eating, but like when I'm eating it. I always grew up, my dad always had a snack every night. Like I don't need to snack. Like after supper, that's it. That's why you eat suppers. You know what I mean? Like, and there's just so many nuances to it.
And so with that, when I started to go, okay, I don't want to eat anything after 6 o'clock at night or something like that. That's difficult when I'm accustomed to doing that. And so I started guzzling water. And I go, if my belly's full of water, if I drink a half a gallon of water and I have to get up and pee in the middle of the night, that's better than, eating a sandwich at 11:30.
Right.
And so I started to go, okay, what are replacements that I can do that don't have a deleterious effect? Come on over here, baby. That can satisfy that part. And that becomes the thing is like, people are like, oh, it's so hard. If you go to restaurants, I travel for a living. I'm like, bitch, I'm on set. And they're like, here's some Fritos or whatever. And here's some candy bars. And it's like, because not all sets have great crafty and great options.
Yeah.
So then where's the responsibility? You'll see me, I got a bag. It's packed with apples, oranges, and beef jerky. Like I bring my own, because I can't be caught. Like you said, I'm going to have to nourish myself, but I won't eat poison. I'd rather fast than eat poison.
100%.
Myself.
Yeah.
The reason why is because once I start eating poison, I start to become accustomed and habitualized to it. And will I ever walk through the door again of consciousness to where I want to nourish myself instead of just feed my emotions?
Yeah. We talk about this like war on drugs, right? And all this big pharma stuff. Like, but I think the biggest drug that doesn't get talked about nearly enough is sugar.
Sure.
Like that, like for me, like for a lot of people, it's so addicting.
People want to talk about the war on this, the war on that, whatever. War is a great business.
Yeah.
And the powers that be will never have the populace in mind. And so you better pirate your life back from corporations that are stealing your attention with every Instagram scroll, with every new gimmick and fad. They're going to tell you that black is white and white is purple. And it's like since COVID, especially, we start living in the upside down where truth becomes false and false becomes truth. And they'll be like, no, dirt's unsafe for you. Everything needs to be wrapped in plastic or you're not healthy and you end up eating forever chemicals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the thing is, if you're dumb, you're going to get results like that.
Yep.
And if you're conscious and you're awake to it, you're going to make different choices. And you're going to realize that you're the consumer. You're the product that everything is selling you. And so when you're the product, what does that mean? That, well, they need you to buy this, they need you to buy that, because you as the consumer are the product. I mean, the vaccines is a perfect example of that. And so I'm going to scare you enough that you need X, Y, or Z. Yeah. When you watch TV, do you know the only people on cable TV that can advertise there? The only reason cable TV is still around is because it's the only advertising that Big Pharma has.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that we're one of 2 countries in the world that will allow Big Pharma to advertise.
Yeah.
Us in New Zealand, it's wild. And so here you are putting ideas in people's head that they're sick in a way that not how God intended their body, not how nature flourishes. But you're saying, no, you need something from our chemical house that's killed more people than war since 1980.
Yep.
Right? And they cannot be sued if they sell you a negligent product. That's another part our Congress did when they started paying off politicians.
Yep.
You can't sue for any malfeasance that goes on. I mean, like the opioid epidemic, like in anything. And so here we are caught in this trap where we're fooled thinking the government's on our side. And I would just ask, anybody to consider, is that true? That's a great question to ask. Is that true? And is it true that you need water to come packaged like it is? Is it true that you need to have X, Y, or Z to be whole?
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's a bigger question than just that, but it
is.
like you want a holistic life. do you want an actual life, or do you want to go ahead and do I want to be enslaved by whatever it is that they tell me is right?
Right. 100%. Yeah. Start thinking for yourself a little bit. Yeah, that's crazy. So for people who are watching this, what are maybe like 3, 4 things if they're wanting to start like headed down that journey of I don't want to just lose weight. I want to change my life and my lifestyle.
Start
What are
jiu-jitsu, start a practice
okay?
that you can fall in love with. Jiu-jitsu, yoga, flamenco dance, whatever. Become something that would be useful to your community. You know, I mean, you see a lot of people stand around and watch if somebody is bullied, or if there's somebody that comes in and abuse. Like, are you a capable citizen?
Yeah.
Or actually, would you be in the way in time of crisis? And so, how can I become useful? And so, I'd start a hobby that was like that. You know, I think Aristotle said that if a man can't defend himself and doesn't know how to use his body, what kind of citizen is he?
Right.
And I start thinking about that, like what kind of pride do I want my ancestors to walk forward? Who am I? And so that becomes a thing, you know. And so I'd start with that, because if you have a good practice, a physical practice, you know, a lot of this stuff sticks in our body, and so we got to move our body through it. And so to sweat every day is important, and and so that coupled with diet becomes really important. If I'm going to go out and do all this work physically, don't I want to nourish myself so that I'm more effective and purposeful in my endeavors? Well, for sure. And so then they start to dovetail together. But I don't feel like, you know, a guy told me one time, he says, "Do you want a new life, Tate?" And I go, "Desperately." I was in a really bad way. And he goes, "Do you know what it costs?" And I said, "No." And he says, "Your old life, every bit of it. Are you willing to look at it under a new lens where everything changes?" And I sure was, you know, because I hadn't built up any asset the way I was going. And so that started to change things for me. It started to change the lens that I looked at life through.
That's really good. Yeah, it's going to cost you your old self. Yeah. That's really good.
A lot of, I mean, you know, Jesus would say that. You talk about Lao Tzu would say that. They talk about that you've got to die every day.
Yeah.
And there's the death of the ego. And then how can I come through humbly? And what is humbly? Well, that's being teachable. That's, I don't know everything. And so can I come through in that way every day?
Yeah.
Or do I get crusty by knowing so much? You know?
Right. Yeah. One of the things when you were talking about like having something you can do like jujitsu or something like that and being protective, like, so my faith is super important to me. And I like to tell people that my faith is super important. And there was a book I was reading that was talking about, you know, the Garden of Eden and how Adam was given the garden to protect it, right? To guard and to protect it. And how we as men every day, wherever we're at, like they're mini gardens wherever we're at. So what are you doing to protect your garden? Like, you know, and so I kind of think it goes to that.
When I think about that, it dovetails with a lot of my philosophy. I can't worry about whether it's Iran, the president, the last president, the next president. All that stuff is way out of my control. But what I can curate is the garden that's right around me. And when people are close in that space, do they feel safe? Do they feel calm? Or do they feel a frenetic energy like there's a problem? Or how am I curating myself?
100%.
And that becomes a huge thing. You know, do I have a quiet confidence where it's comfortable for everybody? Or am I brash and outlandish and I make other people feel small? What is it that I put out there, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really apropos parable.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And that was one of the things that I noticed like 2 or 3 months ago is I had let my garden go, you know. Now I'm trying to tend to it again.
Yeah, beautiful, man. And that's the thing, is like to make it sustainable for yourself.
Yep.
Because this is it's not a one-off. It's not a sprint.
Yep.
This is like, what's the long haul? And if I curated myself differently, would I have different experience in life?
Yeah.
Sure. You know, that the healthier and more nourished I am, do I have a richer experience with everything, with my girlfriend, with my dogs, with my family, with my work, everything. Everything gets different when consciousness shifts.
Yeah.
But it's uncomfortable. So you have to go ahead and say, I'm willing to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's actually kind of funny. On my alarm every morning I get up to go to the gym. The alarm thing on there says make yourself uncomfortable.
Yep. Be relentless in that pursuit.
Yeah, that's good. As we kind of close things up, I like to try and keep things around an hour. I really appreciate your time
No
and
worries.
talking about this. This is great. As you look at Star Wars, kind of bring it back to Star Wars here. What does Star Wars represent to you as a whole? If somebody were to ask you, like, what does it mean to you? Like, what would you tell them?
What I always think about it is I think about it's the struggle. I mean, it's the huge archetypes of good and evil, right? On this galactic scale.
Yeah.
But it's also the huge archetypes of good evil within every person.
Mm.
And so you got the micro and the macro mimic themselves, as above, so below kind of thing, right? It's all of this together. And so it goes, yeah, I can point at the Death Star or whatever, but am I going to take a bribe from this guy to let him get close to, even though that's just a small thing? Like, who am I in this structure, in this ecoverse that we're all sharing together?
Yeah.
You know? And in that, I think it becomes highly important to ask the question, because we all affect one another. And we all either inspire or discourage one another.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? What part is that? No matter how small, that shit echoes. It ripples into the whole of the universe. And I think that's another part about taking responsibility. You know?
Yeah. That's really good.
That's kind of what it means to me. It's like, you know, I went and I watched this play Hamilton with my mom. And I sat there as the theater's emptying out. And I thought, man, everybody in this believes that they're a good man. Aaron Burr does, Alexander does, the King does, everybody.
Yeah.
And then the question is, Tait, are you a good man? Would you even know if you weren't? What does that mean? And I asked this one guy that started me off in Krabi Kabrong and stick fights. And I saw him shortly after, and he was always one of my teachers. And I said, what do you think about that? And he says, I don't think there's an answer. He says, but I think it's real good to ask the question.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you're asking the question means you're mindful, right? Like, if you're not asking the question, you're not mindful of those things. Like, what kind of man are you?
Whatever I think is right or real loosely.
Right.
Because if I just look back, I mean, I'm old enough to have had a lot of mistakes, right? I've tried a lot. So I've had a lot of errors.
Yeah.
But a lot of those errors I would have stood on and go, no, this is the right way.
Right.
And then 10 years later, I go, ooh, shit, I miscalculated that.
Yeah.
Well, if that's true, then I got to consider that whatever I hold on to real tight right now could be wrong.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So here we are.
Yeah. Keeping those things loosely in your hand. Yeah. Yep. That's great. And again, being willing to be uncomfortable to admit, yeah, I was wrong.
For sure. I mean, our ego is so much involved in it that, you know, that's one of the things is when they talk about you've got to die every day, they talk about a death of ego and a life in the spirit, you know. And, you know, I love this quote by Einstein. He goes, I think the great delusion of mankind is that there's more than one of us.
Yeah.
Right. And what is it that separates me? My fears, my self-centeredness, my selfishness, my ambitions. Well, what if I were really on everybody's side? What if I felt whole as I am? Would I come into conflict with anybody? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Well, I really appreciate you being on here and taking the time.
Thank you.
It was great. It sounded like maybe it was a little bit different than what you were expecting at first.
Never know. I go into the conversation pretty open. You know, I know guys have like set questions, and I go, we'll see if we get to those, because the conversation unfolds as it does. It does,
yeah. And that's kind of the way I roll on here. Is I have a couple, like 2 or 3 questions I like to start with, and then I let the conversation roll and I ask from there. So, great.
Well, however I can be helpful, you let me know, man. It's good to hear you, and thanks. Nice to see you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And I'll, if it's cool, I'll keep you updated on my journey on the.
I would love to. Yeah, I'd love to know about that. And yeah, if I can be helpful, you let me know.
Will do. I appreciate it, man. Very much. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm Star Wars Gazer. This is Tait Fletcher. And remember, the Force will be with you always.
This is the way.
This is the way. Yes.